Hello and welcome back to GNAT-TV's News Project Live on Friday, November 12th. I'm Andrew McKeever, the news director at GNAT-TV's News Project, and it's a pleasure today. We've been away for a couple of weeks. We had a few other commitments going on, but it's great to be back with you again today. And just to give you an update of some of the stories we've been following, and we'll start that off with the rising pace of COVID cases in Vermont. As many of you probably already know by now, we had a record number of 591 cases reported yesterday, Thursday, November 11th. That broke the previous record of 496 cases that had been reported a week before. And today, what we're seeing is another relatively high number, a little bit less than yesterday, 505 new cases out there going on. So we're still kind of on the high side, but at least it's not quite up to that gigantic number we saw yesterday. Um, in terms of where these cases are coming from, yesterday, the record number um, was set in Franklin, Lamoille, and Rutland counties. They set all-time records in their one-day case counts. Today, I can say that basically Bennington County is right up there too. Right now, yesterday in Bennington County, 51 new cases were reported, 394 altogether. So that puts us right up there in roughly around third place in that dubious category um, among Vermont's 14 counties. So anyway, just to fast forward to today, again, 505 new cases, 52 Vermonters in the hospital, 13 of them in ICUs, and the total number of Vermonters we've lost so far since the start of the pandemic is now up to 393. 37 new cases in Bennington County reported today, 406 for the past 2 weeks. Up in Rutland, 72 new cases and 547 new cases. And in Windham County, 22 new cases today, 163 over the past 2 weeks. So not over yet. And of course, with the holidays coming up, there's a lot of concern that we could see those numbers staying high. Halloween events apparently are being considered as a possible reason why some of those numbers have been spiking lately. But anyway, the governor is now coming under a lot more pressure to implement a mask mandate that had been in place before. Both House Speaker Jill Kowinski and the Senate Pro Temp Leader Becca Balint have asked the governor to take stronger measures than simply just relying on vaccines, and both have said that a mask mandate would be a good way to go. The vaccine rollout, meanwhile, for 5 to 11-year-olds is underway. According to the Health Department's website, the Education Department's website, about 4% of Vermont children aged 5 to 11 so far are partially vaccinated. Overall, a little over 91% of Vermonters aged 12 and older are partially or fully vaccinated at this point. Turning to some more local news items, we've all been hearing a bit about this proposed field house. It's been proposed for a site in the Manchester Dana Thompson Rec Park. It would cost roughly $13.25 million if it's built as currently designed. It would include a basketball court and two other multi-purpose courts, a rock climbing wall, a running track, fitness areas, and several of the area towns have been invited to take part in it. So its proponents are going out to various towns around the area to make presentations and listen to what some of the responses are that some of the local residents in the various towns that may be asked to take part might have to say. They've been to Dorset and Sunderland, and earlier this week in Manchester. Um, Also, more presentations planned for up in the mountain towns. So one major shift from that's come along since the initial proposal was made was that towns will be now asked for advisory votes in March town meeting to see if they're interested in kind of taking a further look at this, rather than being sort of an up and down vote in March as to whether a town wants to take part. Be an advisory vote, say, hey, we're interested, or no, we're not. And then the next step would be to have a formal bond vote somewhat later next year to decide whether or not towns actually want to be involved in it. As probably most of you know by now, the $13.25 million projected cost of the building would be offset $3 million by the Right Track Foundation, which is the entity that has been proposing this project. $3 million would also come from the town of Manchester, and the other $7.25 million would come from various towns around the region that might want to take part. So we have a little segment that'll be posted to the GNAT-TV website, perhaps this afternoon or perhaps early next week, to kind of spell that a little bit further, and you can find that as well as some of our other stories on our website at GNAT-TV.org or on our channels 1074, 1084, or 1094. So obviously an ongoing story. We'll be following this one closely as it goes along. Well, it'll be interesting to see where it goes. Turning now to another story we posted to our website earlier this week, reapportionment is beginning to come along. There's been a lot of discussion about that at the national level. Every 10 years, the U.S. Census data, which of course came in a little bit later than usual this time around because of the delays caused by the COVID pandemic, the U.S. Congress is reapportioned. Some states gain seats, some lose seats, and the same process goes underway at the state level as well. So in Vermont, the Legislative Apportionment Board, it's a 7-member agency that's tasked with determining if state representative districts should stay the same or be modified somewhat to reflect shifts in population. And also this year, they are trying to eliminate 44 2-member districts, much like the ones that exist in the district that includes Manchester, Arlington, Sandgate, and part of Sunderland. That's a 2-member district currently. The Legislative Apportionment Board, or LAB, L-A-B, as it's often referred to, would like to see those eliminated, the idea being that it's sort of inherently less democratic that way. If you're a resident of a 2-member district, in theory, then you have 2 representatives that you can call or write or email or tweet about or whatever your pleasure may be. And that gives you a little more clout than, let's say, someone who's coming from a 1-member district. Basically, they're trying to kind of rewrite or redraw the district lines so that the population numbers are roughly equal. That would translate into a population of about a district population of about 4,200 people. If you divided Vermont's entire population of 643,000 people by 150 districts, you come up with about 4,200. So the Legislative Apportionment Board will be hearing back from boards of civil authority, local boards of civil authority, their reaction to some of these proposals. The proposal obviously would make Manchester a 1-district town again, which is what it was up until 2010. The proposal also puts Sunderland into a district with Stratton and Winhall and Peru and Landgrove, a couple of other mountain towns. There's been pushback about that. Both Sunderland and Arlington would like to be in the same district that reflects the geographic and social and economic connections between those 2 towns, and would have Sandgate in that district. So That feedback has been sent up north to the LAB, and they have until November 29th to process all the feedback and either revise the district lines or or say, hey, this is what we think is really the best. Process then goes over to the state legislature, and the individual legislators can then weigh in, and who knows what happens at that point. But an interesting process and one that's very important. So again, we also have that story up there on our website, and you can check that out at gnat-tv.org. And just a reminder while I'm thinking about it, if you wanted to kind of drill down and get links to more information about some of the items we're talking about here today, you can go to our comments section, and we should have some links posted there to some of these stories where you can go to get additional information. Otherwise, interesting project underway down in Arlington at the Arlington Common, the new organization that's been formed there on the site where the St. Margaret Mary's Catholic Church is still standing, but no longer a church. And they have three buildings on that site at the Arlington Common, and in one of them, as we're speaking right now, folks are assembling window inserts. It's called window dressers. They're energy-saving sort of interior storm windows, you could say, that'll fit into your window and prevent heat loss in the wintertime and cold weather. Saves you some money on your energy bills, climate-friendly initiative, and also a community building project as well, because it's local folks who just gather together to assemble these, and they're in the midst of that project right now. They'll be there right through the weekend and assembling these ones that were ordered by folks from around the area. We will also have a story about that coming out probably next week, so stay tuned for that one as well. And finally, before we go, I just wanted to make note of the fact that yesterday was, of course, Veterans Day. And we all take a moment to pause and reflect and hopefully thank all of those who served in the nation's armed forces over the years. Originally, it was known as Armistice Day to celebrate the fact that on November 11th, 1918, World War I came to an end. It was renamed Veterans Day in 1954 by an act of Congress to celebrate veterans of all wars, not just those who served in World War I. And locally, our Veterans of Foreign Wars post had a very moving ceremony yesterday at 11 o'clock at their post. Also was followed up by a really nice display at the Manchester Community Library. Artifacts of the veterans' families contributed for this pop-up exhibit that they had, and also the Manchester Historical Society, Dorset Historical Society, the VFW, the Vermont Veterans Home down at Bennington also contributed some items. So it's quite interesting to see. Well, we'll leave it there for today. Thank you very much for being with us. Hope you found our little news update interesting, and hope you also have a nice weekend coming up. I'm Andrew McKeever, the news director at GNAT-TV's News Project, and for our news project, thank you, take care, stay safe, and we'll see you next week. All right.